listening and note-taking. Let's watch this video clip and do the activity. When attending a speaking event, you tend to listen to what the speaker has to say. But it is equally important to take careful notes to determine the central idea of the speech. Why taking notes during a speech? Think about a time you attended a lecture or a speaking event and the speaker was so interesting and you might have thought you would remember everything he said. Well, reality is that you won't recall everything. In fact, one study reported that we remember only 50% of what we heard during a lecture, and within the next 48 hours, the percentage decreased another half. That means by the time we want to use the information we learned at the speaking event, only little of what we heard will be available in our memories. So, note-taking during a speech is important, but not everyone knows exactly how to take good notes. Well, here are a few tips that will help you take really good notes. Listening tips. Taking notes seems pretty simple. A pen, a pad, and a couple of ears should do it. However, before we can think about taking good notes, we need to sharpen our listening skills. Number 1. Don't confuse listening with hearing. Listening is to attach meaning to words and sentences. In other words, it makes sense out of the sounds we hear. Hearing is different. It is the involuntary and uncontrollable act of absorbing noise in our brains. Simple. Listening takes practice. Here are some tips you can start using right now. Number 2. Read up on the content of the speech prior to the engagement. Having a little background knowledge will prepare you to cut through the information to get to the most central ideas. Once you get the main idea, you can connect additional information to create a clear idea of what is being said. Number 3. Listen for verbal cues the speaker may send. Things like using examples, repeating details, or referencing a source may tell you that the point he is stressing may be important. Direct statements that call attention to certain points in the speech tell the audience to listen up. Number 4. Nonverbal cues are equally important. A serious facial expression may indicate that a critical point will follow. Hand gesture, like pointing to a visual, is a good indication that the speaker wants to be sure you see it. Put them all together, listening should be easier. Note-taking strategies. Let's break down some easy-to-do strategies that should help you write better notes. Number 1. Never try to write down everything the speaker is saying. This is mostly because not everything being said is important. Some information is really just there to take up space. So, in 3-step method. Step 1. Don't write down facts, write down conclusions. Don't worry about capturing every single thing that speaker is saying. Spend more time listening, trying to understand the lecture. Start writing or match your notes as a series of questions posed by the speaker and try to fill in your own answers. Number 2. Listen for direct statements that take you from one place to another. For example, if the speaker directs you to his first point, the information to follow is probably part of the central theme. Once you get the main idea of the speech, listen for subtopics that relate to the main point and make connections on paper depending on your note-taking style. In step 2, use color pens. This will help you remember your notes visually. Also, if you establish a set template for your notes, be able to take them more efficiently, write questions in red, definitions in blue, and conclusions in green. Step 3. Review your notes. Spend at least 10 minutes organizing your notes after class or speaking session. If you want to test your comprehension, try teaching the material to a classmate. This will be a great marker to see if you actually learned anything. 4 stages of listening. When a message is sent to us, we move through 4 stages in order to fully understand and retain what we heard. And it goes like this: attending, interpreting, responding, remembering. In the attending stage, we are actually gathering the words and sentences in our brain to be used in the next stage. Think of the words and sentences as if they were floating in the air, not sure what you will do with each. You gather them in your head. Then you enter the interpreting stage. In this stage, you begin to make meaning of the words and sentences. The responding stage will follow. This is where you take the meaningful message and react to it by sending your own message or response, change your behavior, or even make a non-verbal gesture. Finally, remembering takes place, and this involves storing the information for use at a later time. That's all well and good, but being a good listener requires some finesse. Types of listening. The 4 types of listening skills you are likely to use are appreciative, comprehensive, empathetic, and critical listening. Appreciative listening. This is where you are listening simply to appreciate. If you're listening to music or poetry, some kind of inspirational message, you're listening to appreciate what you are hearing. There's no pressure on you. This is for your benefit. And we should do enough appreciative listening because there's a kind of therapeutic value in listening for appreciation. Comprehensive listening or informational listening. This is where you are listening to comprehend, to learn, to absorb the kind of content you are listening to so that you can learn something. Anytime you're listening to a coach, a teacher, an instructor of any kind, you're listening to comprehend and learn. The key parts of this listening is being able to separate the main ideas from the subpoints from the details. We may have trouble figuring out what are the main ideas. By working a little harder at it, taking notes a bit differently, we will be able to listen to comprehend more effectively by separating the main points from the subpoints from the details. Empathetic listening. This is where we are listening essentially to empathize. For example, listening to a friend, listening like a therapist. We were listening to connect, listening for people's emotions. When we are talking with friends and talking to others, we have to connect with their emotions. This is a big challenge. Not everybody is naturally good at this. An old expression said that if you want more friends or deeper friendships, learn how to listen more effectively. And that is a trustworthy expression. Critical listening. This is where we are listening to criticize, to scrutinize a message, to pick it apart. We often have to listen critically when somebody is trying to sell us something, or get us to do something, or get our vote for some reason. People might have a motivation to tell only their side of the story, to be very persuasive. And so it's much more important that we listen critically. So what are they saying? What are they not saying? What's their central argument? How are they supporting their argument with details? You must have a heightened sense of attention to the things that matter the most in that message. Otherwise, people are going to take you for a fool, try to separate you from your money, and so forth. So, which one do you need the most on work? Let's make a discussion.